Last meeting we discussed resolution for the affordable housing, and as you remember, we had the Planning Commission act on an amendment to the Affordable Housing Code, which is in Title 16. They forwarded it to the council. It came to the council, and a study was being done for a needs assessment, so the council decided to continue that until the needs assessment was done. In the meantime, we've had a pending ordinance expire, and so this resolution would direct us to move forward with the code amendments, and due to the policy changes that we have a resolution on a work meeting agenda. That's why this is here today, and then intended to be back on for the 19th. So
we were going to put this on, and then we knew it had to come into a work meeting, even though we just got it today. Danny's smiling about this. No, it's all good. So,
but there's two parts to this. There's the code, and then there's the fee in lieu. And I guess my understanding was in the last meeting that the fee in lieu would be discussed today and potentially approved at the new rate. The code allows that to be changed periodically and adjusted. It does say it's by the housing authority, but I think this could be something that gets...
I think we could kick some ideas around today so that on our next meeting we could have something right, but we could actually take action today.
Right.
I thought their goal was to do away with the fee in lieu. I thought that was the original goal.
And I think it was to get the fee in lieu to be not so discretionary.
Well,
or get it more in line with what it would take to actually do something with.
Yeah.
But I never look at it as to get rid of the fee. That's just my thought. But
well, we don't handle that here, so
I think we need to keep the fee in lieu in there as one of the tools in the toolbox. One is affordable housing.
So the old one was 28. The new one is somewhere in the neighborhood of
85.
So we really can do whatever we want. That's up to this board to set that, correct?
So a person could, say a developer came in and they looked at it, they're going to choose between fee in lieu or what is it, to build a certain number of units. All right, but they can still appeal that to the county council as before, or?
Well, the discretion is for the county council to determine whether it's built on site, whether it's built off site, or whether there's a fee in lieu. So the intent was, even with the new code, to leave that discretion with the council. But the fee in lieu, which is so out of line with $28,000 today, and it's been that way since 16, 18, 20 years. So,
what about the ability of someone who challenges it and says, look, this is too high, your requirement is too high for us, we think it should be less? Is there any mechanism for that built into this, or is it the same as before?
well, I'm not sure what the new code states, but part of the reason we were waiting, and may even be waiting more, is for a nexus study to come out. And that's what we missed in the last discussion. Is the nexus would hopefully say that not all product built in the county is the same. A Deercrest home probably doesn't produce the same need for affordable housing as a home in Beaver City or whatever. So hopefully we get some type of ratio or percentage based on different product types. Maybe there's an opportunity to challenge that, I don't know. They could always appeal that to the Board of Adjustment for some type of variance or I failed to mention Scott Loomis is here, and also Steve Laurent, who work with us on affordable housing issues.
Please,
Mr.
Loomis.
Just to make a couple comments, since again this is a work session, and I think next week we'll talk about it more. But to answer your question about the wood fee, can they challenge that? Really, the needs assessment establishes that what the determination is as for the code, and you're going to adopt a fee as a matter of policy, whatever that might be. So they can challenge the amount of affordable housing they're required to do. Because the nexus study will support the county in terms of what that requirement is, and you're going to make a determination as to what it should be, whether it's 10% or 15% based on this nexus study that's to come. But for purposes of the loop fee, I don't think that's subject to challenge. It's a matter of how many units are they going to build that would be challenged. So you're going to adopt it. The other thing I'd like to add, last week Mike Davis mentioned, what about a countywide loop fee? And obviously you're considering what the county is going to charge, but Heber City has a different number for the fair and loop fee, which is over 100,000. Midway has a different one, but I actually did a weighted average of all of the three together based on the percentages of the houses in the county. It was 18% in Midway, 32% in Heber City, and 50% in the county, unincorporated area of the county. And the county-wide in loop fee, if we chose to do one, was $85,000.
That's right.
So it came almost exactly to the same number. So
in my mind, we've got two things that we want to look forward to next week. One is the in lieu fee. Where do we want that to be? It's been at 28. The study shows 85. We have that. At this point, we're going to determine where we want that to be, correct?
right.
Second thing would be our continuing or our pending ordinance until we get our nexus study and the rest of it, so that we don't have a lap or a gap, so someone can. So we've still got that pending ordinance in place. Is that correct? Is that where we're at? That's kind of the way. We're going to try and address both of those in our next regular meeting.
Next meeting, we're going to talk about some policy decisions based on the needs assessment and recommend some potential changes to the ordinance that was proposed previously. And really, there's some decisions you're going to have to make too. So that will be the discussion next week. And just to follow up on the countywide loop fee too, I was told, I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I was told that Heber was going to follow the county after the county makes a decision.
Could be.
So they're not going to do anything until you do.
But that's certainly up to them.
Yes.
But, okay.
When was Doug, when did we come up with the 28,000? How long ago was that?
I'm guessing it's probably 98, 99. It's been that way.
I know I started in 2001.
And it was already in place?
Well, it was around that time when I had discussions with what was then the housing authority and how they, with Robin Pearson and how they determined it. It was based on what he told me was, if you want to build 10 lots, we want you to build 11, and the value of a lot was worth $28,000 at that time. So you sell that extra lot and pay us the $28,000. So that goes back.
Do we want to insert anything in here about a timeline, meaning this is good until we do our next study in X number of years, so that there's not this enormous jump?
There's a requirement by statute to do a needs assessment every 5 years, and we just did the needs assessment. So theoretically, in that needs assessment, it would be evaluated every 5 years.
Is that new?
Or sooner.
Is that fairly new, or is that?
It's been in there.
So it just wasn't done? Or do we know?
The last one was done in
It's just
2012.
adjusted periodically.
Yeah. The last needs assessment was done in 2012, so it's been 5 years.
Well, and I think part of our old policy, didn't it say that you had to have a policy? And our policy was that you had to have, that they could come in and prove that they didn't need, and that's been part of our old.
And again, that wasn't tied so much to the loop fee, it was tied to the 10% requirement of the commercial generation where they could do that.
So that's where we're taking a lot of the discretion out.
Yes. And that's what the next
Which is the
study
goal, I think, or at least was one of my, what I was.
How close are we on the nexus study?
We just, the RFP ready.
I would think that's an essential part of this.
Well, yes and no. I think we've had enough discussions with the county attorney that they realize that it's coming, and we can talk about all the other policy decisions, and then the last one we'll do, based on the nexus study, is determine what the 10% is going to be, or if it's going to be 15 or 5% or whatever number you come up with. So all the rest of the code stuff, I think we want to wrap up, get in place, and then when the nexus study comes out, then you come back and you say what the percentage is going to be based on that study.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Loomis or for Doug or for anyone else?
Just for the council, do we want to, is anyone interested in putting something in this resolution that says that we'll refer to whichever piece of legislation applies in the code, the state code, that says it needs to be reviewed every 5 years. They will follow that review schedule.
I think it's already foregone that we're supposed to be following it anyway, but I don't know, I would
Why do we have
probably defer to legal.
You're just trying to protect from what seems to have happened.
Yeah, I don't want to have another 10 or 15 year gap because for whatever reason.
Yeah, and just as an example, in Summit County, probably about 2012, they did a needs assessment and it had a much higher rate of the new fee, which is $86,610, it was about $123,000 or something. And they actually made the decision at that time to not increase it. So you can review it, that doesn't mean you have to increase it or from the policy.
So Summit County's in lieu fee of
They're going to adjust it.
is 86 something?
It's 86,610 right now, but they will adjust it.
And their needs assessment said that it should be 100 and something?
That was in 2012, and it was kind of coming out of the recession. They said they didn't want to burden the developers, but now they want to increase it again to whatever number it is, and they're having that number determined right now as we speak. So it'll probably be in the neighborhood of 125 to 150,000.
I'm okay with adding the number. I think we should be doing that, but if it helps us remember and make sure we're doing a review every 5 years, why not? Do you see any issue with that,
Well,
Scott?
does the law say we have to do or recommend it?
See, the law doesn't address the in lieu fee per se.
I know, but
The code says,
the needs assessment.
yeah, the needs assessment is supposed to be every 5 years.
And that's stated in the code.
The state statute, yeah. So that's a requirement, and you look at everything at that point. And the idea is you're supposed to come up with a 5-year plan to address the needs, and that's one of your policy decisions.
I don't have any problem putting in, making reference to that.
I don't think it's going to hurt anything.
I mean, it could be viewed as superfluous, but if it helps us stay on track.
Who? No, I'm just
So
unnecessary.
I think it's a good suggestion just to not let it go as long as it does.
Tracy?
I've got
Please.
one issue with this that I thought you should get a heads up on is there's one subdivision that I know of, maybe there's more, Doug, but Fox Bay condos can be bought out to sell for market value. There was a whole issue with affordable housing up there. So right now, if they want to sell their condos at market price or have their rentals at market price, they're supposed to have paid off the affordable housing fee in lieu. When it goes to sale, they usually pay that off for the buyer, and it's part of the contract. I just want to give you a heads up about that, because that's one outlier of this whole situation you're talking about, is what are the developers going to do moving forward when they come to us. That subdivision is up there, it's been up there for 15 years, and they get to buy out to sell for market value. So that's my question. Are they grandfathered into the $28,000? If they haven't paid it off yet, are they going to be charged with $85,000? Because just so you know, right now maybe a unit is going for about $270, $290. If you put $85,000 on that for them to pay off, now it's not going to appraise, it's not going to be able to be sold. So I just wanted to kind of give you a little back.
We'd be stuck with what was in place when it was approved.
Nothing would be
I'm just checking, and maybe that's something just to make sure we're discussing it before we pass this, and then that wasn't thought of, because
Nothing going forward would be subject to this until we passed it, and that would only be approvals from now on.
Yeah.
Anything
And I
prior
hope
to
we don't
that.
get into another mess like Fox Bay.
that was a big fail on Wasatch County's part, that they got to buy out of that in the first place, but that's a whole nother subject. I just wanted to bring that up, so as you're deciding to pass this $85,000 or whatever, that there's some
Potentially.
reference.
Potentially 85,000.
Right, but I mean, some reference to them and what they're required to do if they haven't paid it out yet.
I'm familiar with that, and it doesn't refer to the in lieu fee, it refers to to an exact amount of $28,000. So it's.
Yeah, and I, like you said, I think it's along the same lines, but different subject.
Just to
Or
make
different
sure we remember.
conversation. Sorry, same subject, different conversations.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Tracy.
Mhm.
And we'll remember not getting the same mess again.
Yeah, let's not do that again. We live and learn, hopefully.
Yep.
Anything else? Oh, Mr. Bill, Bob, sorry, Bob.
That's his twin.
People, sorry.
I have a question of Scott and maybe the council. I'm reading the 2013 code regarding the affordable housing, moderate income housing. And it, on 1630.05B, it says the fee to be paid for each market rate unit shall be determined by the subsidy needed to make a market rate unit affordable to a low-income household. That begs the question of what is the fee in lieu paid for, if Scott can actually take us through and track an $85,000 figure through the process, and what is it used for? I don't know that anyone
Let me
in
make
this...
sure I understand. So,
How was the $85,000 fee generated or come about, and what is it used for? Is it to buy additional land? Is it to subsidize a unit to make it affordable? I have a big
can you
question on
address
that.
that,
Or it's a combination of
Mr.
both.
Lewis, how we come up with that? Yeah, we had that in our
Can you use
packet
that?
last meeting, and I don't have
Got
mine
that
with me.
16.30.05.
Yeah, the needs assessment determined what the value of a 1,350 square foot modest home was based on statistics in the Wasatch County, and then it determined what the household earning 80% of median income could afford, and in this case it was in the county $221,420. The cost of a moderate priced home is $306,450. So the difference is the $85,030. And in the code, there are several proposed uses for the amendments. We proposed, I think, broaden those a little bit. So it's up to the housing. Right now the housing authority, perhaps in the future the council, as to how that can be used. Maybe the county manager could have that authority to use, or some of the policy decisions you need to come up with.
Does that answer your question, Bob?
Yes. I see how the 85,000 was, but how is it used?
Well, that's what's in the code. And that's,
Okay, and I haven't seen a copy of the code, the proposed code.
yeah, but there's several elements that can be used for subsidizing down payments, which is what they use it for currently. It could be used for developing affordable housing. It can be used to purchase units.
We used to buy some property so we could build some affordable housing. And they had a down payment assistance program. Number of
Yeah,
And
it'll be
rent,
broad.
rent subsidies and so on.
It's
That's-
theoretically been used for that in the past, but it didn't.
I think it's actually been used to build some homes too.
And the trustees seem to
Yeah.
using that money that was received by the housing authority, and the second one would be built using that money too.
Is the proposed amendment available? I don't know that I've seen it.
It was presented last fall, November.
Oh, that, okay.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Okay.
Anything else?
Can I ask a question? Because I'm not connecting dots real well. I apologize. But when we require a developer to come up with affordable housing, and we say, let's say the number's 10%, and let's say that it's 100 homes that are being built, and so we require 10. And we say, okay, we want you to provide 10 affordable units. those 10 units will cost much more than $85,000 or $28,000. And yet, as an option, we're talking about having them pay $85,000. You've got a disconnect there, and I understand what the concept of, but I'm talking about from the position of the developer. The developer would always want to pay the fee in lieu because they're obviously $120,000 at least better off. So how does that?
I understand what you're asking, but the answer is they can sell those units. So theoretically, if they sell them for $221,000, which they could at 80% at this time, they're recouping that money. They might, their cost might be $250,000, and theoretically they put that cost under the market rate units, just like if they paid the in lieu fee, but they have a chance of, and they're only required to develop a 900 square foot two-bedroom unit as per the code, a unit equivalent. So if they can sell that at $221,000, they're probably going to break even, depending on what their costs are.
But that's the theory behind it.
Yeah.
Because they can sell it, it should be
yeah, so theoretically it's a gap. Yeah, so theoretically there's a gap of if somebody wanted to buy that unit, that was what they could do it. But they're not going to lose money on, probably not lose money on developing those. A lot of it depends on the cost of land, but you don't factor in the affordable obligation in your cost of land. You factor that to your market rate unit. If you're doing rentals, the same thing. You're basically, if you build it on site, you're going to be limited in how much rent you can charge, but theoretically they could break even and or make money running at those rents as well too. So one of the reasons for raising the in lieu fee to $85,000 versus $28,000 is right now you're not getting any units, and theoretically that will provide incentive for them to build on site, which they haven't been doing. They've just been paying the $28,000 because it's cheaper and they can sell market rate units instead. They can make a lot more money where if they build the affordable units on it, they're going to be awful close to break even if not. And I think in a lot of cases, given the option of paying $85,000 or whatever fee you adopt, they're going to decide to build on site because it's cheaper. So they'll have to subsidize that unit much less than $85,000.
Mr. Thibault.
It depends upon what the land costs and what the ERU costs, because the affordable housing doesn't count against DRUs, and market rate units do count against DRUs.
Right. So if you're in a 100-unit example, you're going to get 10 additional units, so you're not losing any of those ERUs. So you still got the same amount of market rate units if you can put another 10 units on site and break even on those. It doesn't cost you anything.
So I think you may have already answered this. So are there any practical examples recently in Wasatch County where a developer has actually developed those low-cost units in the same place as the apartment?
Not that I'm aware of. And that's the problem. There isn't any restricted units.
And the assumption is that raising this fee will cause that to happen?
Yeah. And the most difficult part about developing affordable housing, creating affordable housing, is land. And if the developer has land and they're looking at the obligations that they have to provide for affordable housing, the best alternative probably for them is, and it's not practical in most situations, but the best alternative is to put some housing on site or designate some of those units that they're building like as affordable as rentals. But what we've seen is everybody pays the fee in lieu and we end up with no place for people to live.
Well, it sounds like, just a practical person taking a broad view of it would assume in a county like Wasatch County with what's happening with property values and average home prices that the performance is going to be difficult for the formula to ever work.
It certainly has worked in Summit County, and we're seeing more developers going towards pricing, particularly with the fees now $336,000. They're trying to figure out how they can do it on site rather than paying the fee in lieu.
And you said also, Scott, that it was at the discretion of the council
To allow
that they pay the fee in lieu or go on